Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our second podcast here at CBT. I'm your host once again, Larry Hecker, one of the belting specialists here at CBT. And you might be wondering why a belting specialist is talking about electric enclosures today. Well, beyond being a hygienic design or a belting specialist here at CBT, I'm also our in-house hygienic design specialist. And we have one of those because with the Food Modernization Safety Act that came into being about 10 years ago, CBT realized that we needed to have some in-house expertise when it came to food equipment design and things like that, because our customers were needing help in that world. And so I was selected to become that person here at CBT. So I've done a lot of training over the last few years and try to keep myself up on the latest and greatest products and any changes in legislation or rules that are happening out in the field so that I can better help our customers navigate what they have to navigate in order to produce food that is safe for their customers. So today we're going to talk about electrical enclosures from Hoffman, and my guest today is from Hoffman, and her name is Dana Myers. Dana, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Yep. So my name is Dana Myers. I'm a global product manager here at Invent Hoffman. I've been with Hoffman about 6 years now, a little bit over, but I've been in kind of the chemical world, processing industry for a little over 12 years now. So lots of background, engineer by degree. So probably been in and out of well over 200 food and bev processing facilities. So lots of insight and experience there.
Well, that's going to be great. Hopefully our viewers today will learn some stuff. I'm pretty sure I will. I'm excited. So we'll get going on this. So Dana, what are some of the problems that food plants or any other washdown application people run into in terms of enclosures out in the field?
Yeah, so when we look at enclosures, it's a really good question. A lot of times we try to take a look at what are the first to fail points on an enclosure, especially when you're doing a washdown. Different types of applications will have different washdown procedures, different chemicals that they use, different temperatures of those water solutions and chemical solutions for sanitization. So that's going to vary quite a bit. But what holds true common over the full thread of food and bev washdown applications on an enclosure aspect is any sort of penetration into the surface, whether you have an HMI or anything like that mounted on the enclosure. That's going to be, a potential failure mode for water or chemicals or food stuff to leak inside that enclosure. Another thing that we see often is the kind of corrosion aspect. The same things that help sanitize the equipment are the same things that are going to help corrode the equipment. So we want to really design around that and try to get our best foot forward. So things like the hinge or the latch or even the gasket on the enclosure, we really want to get implemented in a way that's set for the environment it's going to go into. So the closer you get to the food process action, kind of that direct contact zone, we really want to look at things like making sure we have FDA grade silicone gasket. And a common misnomer is just because it's a blue gasket doesn't mean it's an FDA grade silicone material used in that area. So really trying to make sure we hit that FDA guideline. So 21 CFR, referencing my notes here, 177.2600. So lots of letters and numbers there, but that's really what you want to make sure, especially when you get close to that food element of the processing facility. So gasket can fall apart, degrade, especially with temperature swings, the chemical exposure from sanitization, a lot of things there will degrade your equipment. So a product like our HyShed, where it's designed to an IP69 requirement for high pressure, high temperature washdown, is really going to be something that helps combat that the most. And then the further you get away from that food and bev action, the lesser protection you're going to need to maintain that same design life.
Right. So, how does the high shed solve some of these problems that our customers are seeing?
Yeah, so high shed, when you look at a high shed enclosure, so you have a slope top to start. That's going to help prevent fluids from pooling on the top of the enclosure. The hinging, for example, is fully stainless steel. It's internal to the enclosure, so you don't have any of that exposed to the environment. So really taking that kind of out of the opportunity for chemical contact, but also minimizing that food capture capability. So another hot topic for food and bev is, eliminating the harborage points for bacteria. So hinge coming inside, eliminating that catch point capability, the latching stainless steel with FDA grade silicone O-ring on it. That also is going to allow, with the latch design on the external side, is in a way in a shape that minimizes that food contamination capability of any catch points, and also making it stainless steel so it's corrosion resistant.
Right. You're right. I know people are wondering why blue is such a popular color
Yeah.
in the food world. And in my main background of belting, blue belts are all the rage in food plants. And I know how it's been explained to me is there's not really any natural food that is blue in color. So that's why a lot of the food stuff now is blue, because you can pick it up in the product stream, that color, much easier than white, depending on the product you're running. And also, I believe the other reason is, in the belt world at least, they had a staining problem in meat plants on white belts, and they found the blue belt hides the staining a little better, and they could get longer belt life because of it. But yeah, I was just down at a meat plant not 2 days ago, and they got some new equipment in that had your high shed enclosures on them, and the guy was really surprised how excited I was to see those out in the field. And I told him, hey, I'm going to be talking about that on a video just in a couple days. And I kind of explained to him how good they were, and told him, that your sanitation crew is not going to have to bag those up like they typically do on enclosures. And he kind of looked at me, and I said, it's sealed to where your high pressure can go right on that thing, and it's not going to let water into the components that enclosure is protecting. So certainly it's a very nice product. So you mentioned IP69 rated when you talked about your enclosure. How did Hoffman, design it to make that standard, and how was it tested?
Yeah, so great question. And I think IP69 being a hot topic is kind of an interesting one. Without going into too much of the compliance boring details, I think the original IP69 rating was actually created for cement trucks, so truck mounted equipment for pressure washdown on cement trucks. So that's the old DIN standard that's since been updated to an ISO standard. But what we really tried to lean on is that IP69. And the difference between that and an IP69K rating is the 69K is actually on a turntable that's used, and it has some limitations of what size of cabinet can be put on there for the testing. So we actually have used the other standard, the IEC standard, that uses it and tests it in the way that it's actually going to be used, which is wall mounted. So that takes a high pressure 1200 PSI hose spray 4 to 6 inches away from the opening, and it's a pattern with a set speed, pressure, flow rate to measure the capability for it to withstand that. So the right compression, the right gasket design. Something that at times you'll see is, sometimes they know it's a potential leak point, so maybe you'll see a double gasketed enclosure. We have steered away from that to minimize the risk of capturing any bacteria in there, because as you can imagine, the heat from the electrical components inside kind of acts as an incubator for bacteria. So we really tried to instead get that single barrier of protection with a good compression seal, using the FDA grade silicone at the right durometer pressure. There's a lot of design that goes into it. We took a long time to really make sure we got it right, though.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of features to this. Do you have some success stories of where you put these out in the field to solve a problem and got some positive feedback?
Yeah, so we've seen a couple, traditional food and bev facilities. So we had a vegetable processing facility where they were having the acid from some of those food products that are in there really starting to deteriorate the gasket prematurely faster than what it should for the environment that it's going into. So we improved them into a high shed product, and that was able to withstand. So where they were replacing enclosures, once every year to 2 years, they're now going strong. We launched this product back in 2018, and is last I've heard, everything's going really well. So another area where we've seen these issues is in meat processing facilities. As you can imagine, the added sanitation requirements kind of add the strength of chemical it takes to keep that sanitized. Those are areas where we've also seen a lot of conversion over to high shed to maintain that high pressure, high, chemical rich environment and withstand the environment pretty well.
Wow, that sounds really good. So what about some general information on that? What kind of sizes are these available in?
Yeah, so we have a screw cover series is what we refer to it at. It's the smaller sizes, so all the way down to a 6x4 by 4. So, your push button size, things of that nature, and then going up to the 48 by 36. We have a large variety when you get up past by 16 size. You're going to see the hinge cover models come into play where it has a quarter turn latch. So same gasket design, same mechanism of success for the design of the enclosure, just changing the way that it fastens shut.
Right. What other accessories are available?
Yeah, so you have the enclosure, great. Well, you also have to integrate it and install it, right? So we have a series of spacers that will go between the enclosure and the wall. So standoffs is what we call them on our
Right.
website.
Right.
You really want to have that 4-inch gap to comply with 3A requirements.
Right.
You
Yeah.
offer 2-inch as well. And another item that you'll see that isn't necessarily in our portfolio, but I know that there are some panel view options that include an IP69 compliant piece of equipment for HMI screens, things of that nature that, the industry is really starting to catch up and come out with these IP69 components so you can integrate it how you normally would.
Yeah, I'm surprised. My email gets bombarded probably at least once a week with a new product that's now IP69 rated.
Yeah.
And from all over, mechanical stuff, electrical stuff. It's been pretty impressive. And now I know you have the blue silicone gasket. Are replacement gaskets available? I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So for every size we carry as a standard product, we also have a standard product that is the gasket alone. So we typically recommend to keep 1 or 2 of them in your parts locker, so that way they don't have to wait to order it. If one fails, you can swap it out and replace in the parts bin.
Right. Is there any recommendation on how often you have to do that, or is it pretty much by feel?
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer. I hate giving the it depends, but if you're in a really harsh environment, you can replace it more often. If you're in a less strict or less stringent chemical environment, you can get away with lasting longer. If you nick it, if you crack it, if you see any damage to it, then replace it, obviously, but otherwise you can keep it in there.
Okay, great. And I love that you mentioned the panel view plus. That's IP69 rated. That's actually going to be one of our topics on one of these videos down the road. That really is a great pairing for your high shed because, once again, our customers aren't going to have to take the time to bag that enclosure before they wash it down. And a lot of people don't realize, okay, they've bagged it and they've washed down the machine, they take that bag off, but now they've got to hand clean that enclosure and everything there. So it really is a time saver, and you get a better clean when you do the high pressure system versus someone doing it by hand with rags or brushes or something like that. So thank you very much today, Dana. I think I've taken up enough of your time today. We appreciate all Hoffman's done to provide CBT with innovative product, and for all of our customers listening out there, I certainly would recommend Hoffman when it comes to your enclosure needs, because they really do have a nice product. They're good people to work with. When it comes to deliveries, especially now in the middle of this recovery from the pandemic, Hoffman has just bent over backwards to help our customers out who are in need of a panel in a certain time. So again, thanks for your time today, Dana. And we appreciate the time and talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.